friends. Welcome to the Pain-Free Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Welton, a certified doula, childbirth educator, and mother of three. In this space, we'll hear positive, supernatural, and yes, even pain-free birth stories from women just like you. We'll explore the deeply spiritual side of childbirth and how God designed women's bodies brilliantly for birth. Let's get started. Welcome back, friends. Today I'm interviewing Jilda Connell, who is a mother of three from New Jersey and a fitness instructor. And she's going to be sharing with us her transformational birth that she had with her third birth after having two births in the hospital that were medicated. This one she had in the hospital unmedicated, and it was a completely different experience. So if you have been on the fence about, can you really do unmedicated, especially if you've had medicated births or you're planning a hospital birth or you just want to hear an encouraging birth story, this one is going to be a treat. So welcome to the show, Jilda.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited. I really am.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. And I love hearing birth stories, especially empowering ones in the hospital, because we just don't have enough of those. So tell us a little bit about what made you decide to go for a natural birth with your third.
So my previous two birth experiences had a little bit of trauma around it, and I had to get induced twice. And I found that to be such a long and painful and scary procedure for me. The medicine, the Pitocin, the Foley bulb, like all of these things that I wasn't prepared for. I had no idea. I thought an induction was very simple, but it's not. And
Yeah, that's a big misnomer that I think women don't really understand, is how complicated inductions can be.
Yeah.
And were you induced for going over your due date or for a medical condition?
I wouldn't even necessarily call it a medical condition, because with my first, it was on my due date and I had gotten a scan and they said my son's blood pressure was dropping a little bit, but it wasn't enough now. Okay. Now that I know more, to get an induction, because there was nothing wrong with him. But as a first time mom, I'm petrified. I'm like, okay, well, you do whatever you got to do to get him here to me safely. So that was my first induction, and I was not ready at all. I was not even dilated a little bit for that. So they had to start from the beginning, and it was very long, very, very long.
How long did it take?
It was about 32 hours, and I pushed for almost 6 hours. Yeah.
And they started you with the Foley ball with probably like Cytotec and then Pitocin.
Yes.
And it takes so long just to get you to be dilated or effaced before the contractions even start. And then the Pitocin. And then you probably got an epidural at some point. And
right.
For 6 hours.
Right. And on top of it, after he was born, my amniotic fluid became infected because I was checked so many times.
Oh.
So I had a fever. He was rushed to the NICU. And I'm like, I never want to go through this again. Like, I almost didn't want to have another baby again. It was scary, you know?
NICU stays are horrible. And,
yeah.
And did you, what were you feeling by the end of that? Were you like, none of this had to happen this way? Were you mad, or were you just like, I don't know if I ever want to have kids again?
Both. And once I learned a little bit more about like the dips and the blood pressure, I realized he could have just been laying on the wrong spot at the wrong time and they picked it up, you know?
Yeah, like one dip and one reading. Was it his heart tones or your blood pressure?
Oh, you know what? I did say blood pressure. It was actually his heart rate. Yeah, not his blood pressure. My blood pressure was probably sky rising at that point, but no, it was his heart that was dipping. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's why they induced you, because they picked that up on a prenatal.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. And that, that could be, like you said, for a variety of reasons, but maybe he's leaning on the cord, or or the machine just didn't pick it up for a moment there. I've seen everyone freak out in a hospital delivery before when they just missed a heart tone and it looked like a dip, but there was nothing wrong with the baby. But sometimes, those things can be really scary and you don't know, is this a real emergency? Is it not? And you trust the people who are advising you. So your second one was another induction. Was that one different or similar?
So the second induction, it was a lot smoother. I know what to expect at the time,
Yeah.
but I actually had to do a elective induction because I had no childcare at home. And based upon my due date, I needed childcare for that week, and it was the only week I could get help. So I said, okay, let's pick this date. I know that somebody's going to be able to watch my son at home, and I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy about it. I really wanted to see when my second son would just come on his own, but I had to get induced again. It went a lot smoother that time, though.
What made you decide to go natural for the third?
So for the third, I said, I am never going to get induced again. I don't want to go through it. I want to feel
Mm,
both of my epidurals. I had to get my epidural the first time 3 times. So it didn't really work that well.
wow.
And I developed an epidural, like the spinal headache.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a little traumatic. The second epidural, same thing. It just didn't, one leg worked. So
Mm,
I said, I'm not going through this ever again, ever
yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So following you for as long as I have, I'm like, I follow her. I love her. I need to just like actually dive in and do this now. So I started with the hypnobirthing and I was reading all the books and doing the courses, and I changed my mindset. And I said, this is going to be the time that I can have the birth that I always dreamed of. And you gave me that confidence as well. And my friends thought I was crazy, but I'm like, you know what? This isn't for anybody else, but for me.
Mm. That's
So
so good because a lot of women ask me, like, how do I stand up to like all the naysayers and all the people who are judging me? Like, what would you say to those women?
right. Our aunts, our grandmothers, our moms, all the older generation, while they most likely had unmedicated births, right? Today, they'll say to us, like, why would you want to go through that pain?
Mm.
And it's not even about that. I don't want to go through all of the interventions.
Yeah.
I want it to be an easy, beautiful experience. And you have to train yourself to get there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and you've experienced it the other way. You know what they offer, and you're like, I'm
Right.
not interested in that. So it's not like you were,
Right.
inexperienced in the way that it's done, with all the medications and induction side. And so I think that's beautiful. And a lot of women hit that place where they're like, never again am I going to go through that. And there's a better way.
Yeah.
So, and I love what you said there about like it's not for them. It's for you. It's for you and your baby and your family. And that is your decision to make. And you don't have to convince anyone of that decision. And I love the freedom in that. I love the permission in that. That I hope women hear that who are struggling with, you know, do I go after the birth that I want, the dream birth that I have in the face of knowing they'll be judged or criticized or ridiculed? And at the end of the day, it's not for anyone else but you and your baby and your family. How did you advocate for yourself in the hospital and set up a different kind of birth experience for this third one?
So I had a birth plan that I wrote out a few months before I delivered, and I had shared it with my OB, and I loved my OB. They were very on board with what I wanted to do. Nobody gave me any type of pushback. And they said, in hospital settings, we are seeing more unmedicated births now. So we're a
Mm,
little bit more, on board for it. I guess where I am, where I live in my town, there's been a lot of women who have been having unmedicated births. So I think it's just a little bit more common now than not. Women are taking more control of their births, thanks to people like you and your platform, and a lot of other women who are helping women advocate for themselves. So,
yeah. What did that process look like for you?
yeah, I found a different team. And like I said, my birth plan, I told them exactly what I wanted, exactly what I didn't want, even down to, me saying, I don't want any students in the room. Like I
Hmm.
was very, very specific.
Yeah.
And the midwife who was in the room with me was absolutely lovely. And she supported my plan.
Hmm. So you went to a midwife with this one. Were you with midwives with the previous or not?
No, I wasn't. No, but she was a midwife, a part of the hospital, because next to the hospital is like the whole midwifery program.
Hmm.
But the midwives also help deliver at the hospital that I went to.
Yeah. What was that difference like to go from, doctors or OBs to midwifery care?
Oh, it's just absolutely night and day. I didn't feel like I was in this sterile environment. I felt more at home. It was just so quiet. My husband and I joke about it. And I think the reason why I was able to deliver her with such grace and peace was because of how quiet it was.
Mm.
And at home, I have two kids, I'm constantly overstimulated. Being in this quiet room just felt so peaceful to me.
Wow. That's not how most people describe a hospital room.
No, I know. And the hospital truly is like a Virtua and Voorhees. They just open up this beautiful new wing and they have a bed for the dad. They have showers, they have tubs in their bathroom. So Voorhees in New Jersey, by the way. That's kind of why I wanted to go there. It was 5 minutes down the road from my house, and that's where I wanted to
Now, this
go.
was a birth center or a hospital?
It was a hospital, but there
Wow.
there was a birth center next to it.
Okay, but you were in the hospital and they had these nice, beautiful new rooms.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
amazing. That's so great. And I love that there's a push for that because you know what? Women and families are speaking up saying we want better care. We want care that feels like we're at home, that's not all medicalized and sterilized. And this was a different environment than the first two you had your babies at. So you made a
completely.
switch to go from doctors to midwifery care, and you went to a different hospital that had a much different environment because environment makes a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So you're taking some serious steps to take back your power and own your birth experience. You're making choices. You're writing your birth plan and putting intention into that. You switched providers, you switched hospitals. When push came to shove, how was this birth different than your other births? What was your experience like this time with your preparation?
I was reading books every night. I was meditating. I was visualizing how I wanted my birth to be.
Mm.
I didn't know the gender of my baby. And with two boys at home, I just had a little bit of a different feeling this time. I kind of knew that I was going to have a girl. I just felt it. Being that this was my last as well, I wanted to make it the most amazing experience that I could. And once I was in that room, everything all automatically just came together. It was very hands off, no cervical checks until the very, very end. Doctors were not in and out of the room. They honored my plan. They honored that I didn't want the hustle and bustle
Mm.
of everybody in the room. It was just my husband and I meditating and humming. I hummed the entire time. And my husband said he felt like he was in a temple because just the whole time I'm like, just like humming. And
Like during the
um,
contractions that when they would come, you would hum through them.
yeah, I would hum through
Wow.
them. And I actually sat on the toilet backwards with my hands over. And
Mm.
once the contraction came, I would hum. And like the acoustics in the room, it was peaceful. It was peaceful. I didn't feel that pain. It was just different. I was prepared.
And so you didn't feel pain during those contractions.
I felt the rise of the surge. I felt it climbing and climbing and climbing. And then as soon as I felt like it got a lot, it just went away. And I just kept telling myself, like, you're not going to be here for that much longer.
Mm. What a beautiful, empowering thing to say to yourself, because the opposite would be like, oh, I'm stuck here forever. How long is this going to take? And I feel like a lot of us can get in that loop, that negative loop of how long will this be, and this kind of dread and despair. But I love that you're like, hey, I'm not going to be here forever. This comes and it goes, and you can handle it. What was going through your head during these contractions and this birth experience, knowing that this is radically different than your other two birth experiences?
I just kept saying to myself all of my affirmations, which I didn't do that, with my other two.
Yeah.
I didn't have affirmations. The only thing I was thinking about with my other two was like, I can't wait for this to be over. With this one, I was diving into it and I was saying, you're doing it. You are doing what you wanted. And my husband was hyping me up and he was like, Jill, you're doing so good. Like you're doing this, you're doing it. And it just made me feel like on top of the world.
What were some of
And
your favorite birth affirmations?
I would say to myself, the pain is not greater than you because it is you.
Hmm.
I would say that a lot. I had like seven of them. And of course, like that was the first one that I think of. But I just kept praying as well and thanking God for giving me this experience as if it already happened the way I wanted it to be. I was
Wow.
saying, thank you, God, for giving me this amazing birth experience. And I was saying that during the course of it as well.
Like during the contractions. Yeah.
Yeah, during the contractions.
What a radical shift that is. I don't think women realize how much of an impact that has when our heart posture is to be thankful and grateful, even in the moment of experiencing that surge, for being present with it,
Hmm.
instead of resisting it and trying to get away from it and acting as if it's going to hurt us or harm us. But that heart shift changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And my heart was so open this time around, and there was no fear this time. And I had so much fear with my other two, but this time I just was welcoming for it all.
Mm.
And, not once did I think I'm going to have to like turn around and take the medicine or get an epidural. I knew that those words needed to just be out of my mouth. I didn't even
Out of your
want,
vocabulary. Yeah.
yeah, like I didn't want to have to feel like I had to go back there, like that was just, it was gone.
Yeah. And it sounds like you were just so present in in that moment and in your body and connected that there was no fear. There was no like, how long will this take? How much pain am I in? Like you're just not even in that state of mind. You're just like enjoying it, dare I say, and like being grateful for it.
Yes. Wait, I never get a chance to be in a quiet room. So like I was enjoying it for a second. I really was. I mean, it was lovely. It really was lovely. What made things so great for me was just having an incredible nurse, the midwife. They honored my plan and they would say, well, all right, well, why don't we go into this position? Let me give you a couple tips and tricks. Once I was in the transition phase, the nurses and midwives, they would suggest certain types of positions. And that was really helpful because I was kind of like stuck just sitting on the toilet for a while. And while that felt good, all that pressure, I was kind of stuck there and my water had not broken at that point. So the midwife said, well, how do you feel about us breaking your water? And it should progress really quickly after that. So I asked her to break my water and she checked me. I was 8 centimeters dilated at that point. So I was like, I'm ready to go. I've been laboring in the hospital now for just about 4 or 5 hours, not too long, but I was ready to take it to the next step. So she broke my waters. And like I said, I was 8 centimeters at that point, and it was maybe 5 minutes later, I went from an 8 to a 10.
Wow.
And it happened really quick.
That goes
Um,
fast. Yeah, it can speed up after they break
yeah,
your water. For
yeah,
good or for better. For worse or for
yes,
better. It was probably
right.
intense too.
It was intense. It was so intense. And I had a bulging water bag for about a week. And don't forget, I was a week late as well. So I was on my hands and knees at that point and hugging the back of the hospital bed on my knees. And I said to my nurse and the midwife, I said, I'm feeling really pushy. And they're like, well, we just checked you. You were 8 centimeters, just, couple minutes ago. I said, I don't know. I really feel like the baby is about to
The
start
baby
coming.
dropped.
The baby dropped. And all they had to do was like take a little peek. And the baby was just, she started to come out.
Oh, she like they could see her. They didn't even have to check you.
Yeah,
Wow, that is
it
really
was,
fast. Because sometimes
yeah,
it takes hours to get from even 10 centimeters to like seeing the baby's head. Because
right.
10 doesn't mean it's you're ready to push.
Oh,
Baby
right,
could still be really high in your
right.
birth canal, and you might not be ready to push, but that's a lot of progress in just a few minutes.
In just a few minutes, it was bizarre. I mean, I couldn't believe it. My husband was like, oh my God, what's happening? And I think it was the gravity. I really would love to tell any woman that one of the best birthing positions is on your hands and knees. It's,
Yeah.
oh my God. I mean, it
Join me. We will
just,
shout it from the rooftops.
yes, it's just the best. I mean, your body is just so open. I had my knees in, my feet out, the baby's
Yeah.
head was descending. And, I learned that from you. And
You get the that internal hip rotation to like open up your pelvis. The knees in, feet out gives your pelvis like 30% more room for baby to fit. And then you've got gravity working in your favor instead of laying on your back where you're actually pushing your baby uphill based on the way
yes,
your pelvis is shaped. That baby has to travel uphill. That's so much work that nobody needs to do in most cases. And so
right.
you've I just love this story. So you're on your hands and knees. They see baby. What happens next?
I said, okay, well, can I start pushing? I'm like, I'm going to start pushing. I have to. They're like, no, let's go. Like, you can do it. So
Then
I'm
they see baby.
push.
They're like, oh my gosh, the baby's right there.
Yeah, yeah. They were like, the baby's right there.
Go for it, girl.
And it was so funny. This is so bizarre, but my dad, he was actually in the room. It was my husband and my dad. They had a
Oh
sheet
wow.
around me. And right when I was about to start pushing, I asked my dad to leave. He's always been a really big supporter of,
Oh,
I lost my mom 15 years ago. So
oh,
he wanted to like always step up and be there for me. And I
yeah.
know it's a bizarre type of connection, but my dad and I are very close. And I love that I can share that experience with him. But the second it was time for me to push, I'm like, okay, you got to go. Like, I'll see you. I'll see you later.
See you on the other side.
See you on the other
Oh,
side.
that's so
But
beautiful
that,
though that he got to be a part of some
yeah,
of it.
yeah, he was excited, but he was nervous too. I mean, he was nervous to see me doing something that he didn't know was a natural, normal thing to
Yeah.
give birth on your hands and knees, to not take medication, not needing an epidural, advocating for myself, old school, like they don't understand that there are many different ways to do things, right?
Right, right. Yeah. Back in his generation, they were just presented with here's how you birth. The women go in the room and
That's it.
the
Yeah.
men might wait in the waiting room, or we're all drugged and medicated and
Yeah.
we do what we're told.
Right. Right.
So what a beautiful thing. And I love that you had the confidence to advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself in that moment, knowing, you know what, I don't think my dad's comfortable with this and I'm not comfortable with this. So I feel like it's a
Yeah.
good time for dad to go.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, now it's time for you to go. So back to pushing, I really wanted to breathe her out and breathe her out, breathe her down, do my J breathing. I was having a little bit of difficulty with that. I felt like not that she was getting stuck, but I knew something was off. And the reason why that was because she was 11 pounds.
Wow. Did you know
Actually,
she was that heavy?
no, no, I had
You
no
had no
idea.
idea. Were your boys heavy?
No, no, they were 7 pounds. They were little, little.
What? And
And
she was
Karen,
11 pounds? It's
she
like,
was 10 pounds, 14 ounces. Yeah, she was massive, massive.
oh my goodness.
I had no idea. And all the
What did, how,
nurses,
oh my gosh.
they were like, oh my God, that baby is so big. And they're like, how much do you think that baby weighs? And I'm like looking at her. I didn't even know that it was a girl yet at this point. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm holding a 2-month-old baby. I'm
Yeah.
like, she looks huge. And then that's when I saw she was a girl, and that was like the best thing ever.
What did that feel like? Obviously, you've got this like cannonball sized human coming out of you, much more intense and bigger than your boys at 7 pounds, but you're on your hands and knees now. You're not medicated. You can feel everything. This is an entirely different ball game now. But what did pushing feel like in that moment? How was it different? Like what was it really painful? Was it really intense? Was there a lot of pressure?
When she was coming down, it was like on top of each other. It was surge
Back.
after surge after
Yeah.
surge.
Yeah.
And I felt my body kind of like just like curling in almost. She came out, it was 6 minutes from when my water broke, 10 centimeters, and then she was there. But within maybe like the 4 or 5 minutes of pushing, yeah, I was just like curled in the whole time. And I was pushing though. I mean, I was straining to get her out because she was so big. The only thing that really helped was opening up my pelvis with my knees together. But I was like, oh my God, I don't know if she's going to come out. And then she just, once she got her head and her shoulders out, she was
So
good
but
after
you're
that.
doing the breathing her down and pushing 6 minutes, not from even like when you started pushing, but from when your water broke at 8 centimeters to her
Yes.
being born, six
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
was
like
about like 6 or 7 minutes. That's how fast it went.
so pushing was like a few minutes of
Yeah.
actual like pushing time, and that would had to be
Yes.
so intense. Now this
It was
is
so
compared
intense.
to you pushing your 7 pound son out that took 6 hours. Do
Yeah.
you guys like hear? I'm just like, I
Right?
want to make sure women understand that because this is so we think that like, oh, it's a big baby, it's going to take hours to push this baby out, and we get all scared about like these fear tactics that doctors use against us and what society says is going to be hard because your baby's big or whatever other reason, or you have small hips, or all the BS we make up. And here you are. I just can't. I'm like laughing because it's like this is birth, right? This is when we do it the way our bodies are designed to birth. You can push out an 11-pound baby in 4 or 5 minutes. But when we hook ourselves up to medicine, make ourselves immobilized in bed, fill ourselves with fear and disturbances and noise, it takes 6 hours to push out a 7-pound baby. You're
Right.
lying on your back. You're not using biomechanics and gravity. You're not using your natural birth hormones. Like everything is so much better when we follow God's plan for
Yes,
birth.
for
And this
sure.
is just like night and day
Yeah.
difference. And I'm just like in awe of you and your body and how you trusted yourself in that moment. And you were pushing, but you knew like how to go in instead of like in fear running away, and you were going in. And that almost feels like, I can feel that like pressure as you're like going
Yes.
describing it. Like I feel like I'm there.
It rocked my world. And like I said, I was breathing her down. I was doing my J breathing, but I felt like at a point she was getting stuck and it was just, surge after surge. And that's when I was like, okay, I really got to just like push and push. And it was only just a few minutes of that. And then it was like,
She's
then it
here.
was over. Then she's good.
Did you feel
Then
the ring
it
of
was it.
fire?
Somebody just asked me that. I don't know. I mean, it kind of felt more. I no, I felt the ring of fire with my first one. The reason why I don't think I felt it with this, I didn't tear it this time either.
You didn't
Uh,
tear with an
n-
11-pound baby. Yes,
no,
girl.
no, it didn't.
That's what I'm talking about. This
I
is the
know.
breathing. This is the breathing technique I teach. It's It's a game changer. It's such
Yeah,
a game changer.
it really
11-pound
is.
baby, when you're in
Yep.
the right position, working with your body,
Yeah.
breathing that baby down and out. Oh my gosh, this
It
is
made
so
such a
cool.
difference. And
Oh,
the interesting thing is, I'm a fitness instructor. I worked out 38 weeks, almost the entire time. And everyone was like, you're gonna have a little baby, you're gonna go early. And on my third baby, a week late, and she was 11 pounds. I mean, it was something I didn't really expect. But the one thing that happened that I knew was going to happen was I was going to get the birth that I planned.
yeah. You took
And I'm
back your power.
fortunate. I took back my power. And listen, sometimes things happen. It doesn't always happen the way you want it to
Yeah,
go,
you can't
right?
control birth,
You can't control birth,
but
but
you can
I
be in charge.
totally. And I think that visualizing and having a support system, having my husband really be a part of it as well, and not just like sitting on the couch just watching. No, he was involved and he knew my plan too. So Yeah, advocate for yourself, find your support system, read all the books, meditate. It can be done. You just have to have that willpower, that mindset. I assisted my friend's natural birth 2 months ago because of my birth story on your Instagram.
Really? She invited you to like be a doula or come and support her?
To come and support her.
Amazing.
She was cousins with one of my friends. And when she saw your post, she said, "Isn't that so and so's friend?" And she put us together. And so she followed you for the longest time. And she said, "I want to have a birth story like yours." And she rocked it. And I mean, that made me feel high. Like I did something. She saw that she could do it within herself. It was so cool. And now I want to be a
Amazing.
doula. Now I want to do it.
Yes.
I love
That's
it. I love it.
that's what happened. That's exactly how I got into this work. Like I heard this could be possible. So I
Yeah.
went for it. I studied just like you. I prepared, I studied, I read the books, I researched, I hunted for the good birth stories. I found women that had done the kind of births I wanted to do and said, "How did you do it?" You go all in and then you have it and you start sharing with other people. And this is the power of birth stories and the power of sharing our testimonies is that it makes it possible for someone else to do it. Because it's not just theory, it's not just something you read in a book, it's real life. And someone
Yeah.
you know has done it. And if they can do it, why not you? And
Right.
that's why I love sharing birth stories like yours, because it tells everyone listening, this is possible. If I can do it, why can't you? If God can do it for me, why not you?
Why
And
not me? Right. Why not me?
why not?
Why not? My sister-in-law said to me, "Jill, if anybody can do this, it's you." And like, I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to let myself down either. But I just, that phrase, like, if anybody can do it, it's you. Like, what a powerful statement that
Yeah.
somebody other than myself could see myself really doing this. You
Mm.
know,
And
it's
what
meant
happened
to
with your
be.
friend? Did she have a beautiful birth? Like a hospital
Yes.
birth, like all
Yes.
everything she wanted?
She went to a birthing center.
Birthing center.
Yes. And it was absolutely incredible. She was amazing and she got exactly what she wanted.
I
And
just love it. And I love that it's not even dependent on like you can only have a beautiful, empowering birth at home. Like you might actually be the first hospital birth story I've shared on my podcast. And what a great way to kick it off because there's a lot of accounts, a lot of birth workers that say, oh, you can't have a physiological birth in a hospital, or that's not possible to have a pain-free birth in a hospital. It doesn't
no,
support it. You know what? When you take charge and you own your birth, like that internal environment is so much more powerful
that's
than the
it.
external environment.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you showed that. You rocked it. And now you're showing other women, you're supporting other women to do it and hopefully going to become a doula. This is like it's so beautiful. Let me ask you this. What was your postpartum like with your third? And how was that different than your other two?
Totally different. I had the hormones kick in immediately with my first. Now he was brought to the NICU. So I started having intrusive thoughts and
Mm,
my anxiety skyrocketed. And I had a very rough postpartum mentally and physically with him. My
yeah.
second was okay. And then with her, I felt okay. Like I felt okay. I wasn't in any pain at all. Like I said, I didn't tear. I did bleed a lot after she was born. They did have to give me Pitocin because I did hemorrhage a little bit. And they said just because of how fast she came
Mm,
and how big she was,
that makes sense.
that makes
Because
sense,
yeah,
right?
your hormones have to calibrate to the changes. And after
Right.
your birth, all these hormones shift. And they probably had to play a little catch up to realize, oh, she's out. It happened so quick.
Yes, exactly. And it happened so fast. Like they didn't even give me a consent for it. They had to give it to me
Yeah.
because I was hemorrhaging like pretty hard at that point. So that was a little scary. But then once she started to breastfeed, she latched right away. All of the hormones were released. That helped with me
Yeah.
not bleed as much too.
Yeah.
And then we were home the next day. Like I was home the next day.
How did you
And
feel?
oh my God, I felt on top of the world, just like I just felt so freaking strong and powerful. And I was thinking about my mom the whole time. Like,
Mm.
you know, like I could feel my mom. She was so proud of me. And
Oh,
now I have a daughter of my own. And I felt like this triangle of connection between the three of us. And I feel like my mom spiritually gave me that push, right, as well to have this birth. She was there.
yeah. You like felt her presence.
Oh my God. And I say to everybody that she smelled like my mom when she came out. Like I could smell her almost. And a medium told
Wow.
me not too long ago that my mom sent the baby to me, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's so beautiful.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. What would you share with other moms out there who are scared of birth or have had traumatic first or second birth experiences and, you know, deciding what to do and whether they're gonna how to prepare for a different kind of birth experience?
I would say, once you find out you're pregnant, it's the time to start now. Because if you want to have a birth experience of your dreams, I wouldn't wait too late in the game because it does take time to practice. Visualizing things takes time. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just like learn these things overnight. It's like a course. You have to study these things. There is no there's no love in fear.
Mm.
Pain. Pain is an illusion. So we have to work around that in a different way. This pain is making you stronger. This pain is getting your baby closer to you. This pain isn't you. It's not greater than you. It is you. I would say study, talk about it, look at only positive things. Don't look at the what if this happens, what if that happens. Be prepared for good things, not bad things.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's such a beauty, such a beautiful story and such a light and a I feel like it's just a light and a symbol of hope for so many women who have had bad experiences and been fear-mongered and whether by
Yeah.
their own mind or by other people, we percolate on those fears and it can really disempower us. And sometimes, it takes that courage to stand up and say, you know what? No, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to go through my fears. I'm going to face them. I'm going to visualize the birth I deserve and that I want. And even if you have an 11-pound baby, who says
Yeah.
you can't? Why not?
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
it's just to have such an incredibly empowering birth surrounded by love and support in that peaceful room. I just encourage anyone listening here to, just even as a step of action to take a pen and paper and write down, what do you really want? If it wasn't up to anybody else and nobody was telling you what to do, if you could have it your way, what kind of birth experience would you want? What are the things you would want in your birth? How would you want to feel? Where would you want to birth? How do you want to be supported? And then just begin to like Jilda said, to visualize those things, to begin
Yeah.
to allow those things to transform your mind.
Trust.
Yeah,
Trust in yourself. You can do it.
I love it so much. Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
incredible sacred story with us. And if anyone wants to connect with you or reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can find me on Instagram. My handle is jacked_with_Jill, Jil with one L. And part of what I do now is provide a lot of support for women postpartum with their fitness and nutrition, mental self-help, self-care, self-love. That's what I do. That's who I
Mm,
am. So
I love that. Yeah,
thank you
your
so
work is so
much.
important. And I look forward to seeing you around in these spaces as you're supporting the
Yay.
postpartum moms and maybe even more moms giving birth. Oh, we need more people like you sharing your light and your stories. So thank you,
Thank
Jill.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Pain Free Birth Podcast. If you were encouraged, it would mean so much if you left us a 5-star review and shared this with your community. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram at painfreebirth. And to learn more about the Pain-Free Birth e-course, free resources, private coaching, and upcoming events, find out more at painfreebirth.com. See you next week.